Yeah, I know people don't care about politics, but I still am kind of interested in politics, mainly just because it makes me mad. You can't help but respond to shit that makes you mad. And I'm the same ape as all of you. Judges allowed Donald Trump and his co-defendants to appeal his ruling that Fani Willis remained the Georgia election subversion case prosecutor. Judge Scott McAfee found Miss Willis could stay on as long as the prosecutor she had a romantic relationship resigned from the case. Mr. McAfee said that the case against Mr. Trump and his co-defendants will continue while they appeal. Mr. Trump and others are charged with plotting to overturn 2020 election, which, yep, they did. The case in Georgia was nearly upended after one of the co-defendants, Michael Roman, claimed that Miss Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, was improperly benefiting from a romantic relationship with lead prosecutor Nathan Wade. So Miss Willis, the district attorney. But if they're on the same side, what's the conflict of interest? They're both on the prosecution side, so it shouldn't really matter if she's banging. I mean, the only benefit she's getting is the dick, so I don't see a problem here. I guess any interest outside of professional means is something you can claim by the defense that it's a conflict of interest. That, and I'm not sure the district attorney, I don't know, maybe the prosecution and the district attorney aren't technically on each other's side. I think the DA just brings the charges. The prosecutor has to, prosecute the case. So there could be a difference, but I don't see a difference there. Several of Mr. Roman's co-defendants, including Trump, had joined the motion to see Ms. Willis disqualified and the charges dismissed. Yeah, any maneuvering, if they can change up the DA, if they can get rid of the prosecutor, anything that they can claim legally is going to help in any tiny way. Because when you have no options, even the smallest option might bear fruit. So it sounds like he's just desperate and stalling. So that why they appeal, because any discrepancy can cause a hiccup in the case, and it seems like her fucking the prosecutor was enough for them to try and appeal and get her dismissed. But this seems like a desperate move to try and buy time, maybe trying to anything that sticks to the wall, you throw all the shit you can. Hopefully something gets it. Over a series of chaotic days in court, Miss Willis admitted to the relationship with Mr. Wade, but denied that she had benefited financially. Mr. McAfee wrote in his ruling last week that Miss Willis had a serious lapse in judgment and that the relationship tainted the case with the appearance of impropriety. Yeah, even if it's just her banging a dude. When you're putting people in jail, you have to cross every T, dot your I's, because anything on appeal, even if you go after you go to jail, when you can get you a retrial, get it dismissed, and they desperately want to put Trump in jail because they do not want him to be president. Everybody's scared that he's gonna, forgo the process of law and be a dictator and be the next Putin, which everybody that's like a naysayer to that thinks that would never happen here. There's checks and balances. That would never happen here. But if you get into power and then during those 4 years you grease the right palms and your entire plan is set up to have the correct people in place, it absolutely could happen here. We could have a dictator Trump, and people, whether you want that or not, whatever, but people are terrified because they also, because it's mostly liberals that are terrified because, of course, Republicans are going to be biased and say, oh, it's not that big of a deal. What happened during January 6th? They can't walk around the Capitol? So people people will make excuses and obfuscate for their side just because that's natural human behavior. But but yeah, if you want to pretend like Trump would never do that, he did try to overturn an election that he fairly lost, and he nearly convinced a ton of people that the elections were rigged. I mean, people still think, but whenever Republicans win, the Democrats claim the same shit. They don't try to overturn it, they don't go that far, but they have challenged in the past, and they always, Obama stated that, we don't know these voting machines, blah, blah, blah. We don't know all that stuff. Like, everybody has complained. Hillary Clinton's still complaining about her loss. It's been 8 years so far, and she's still complaining. So it's not weird that he contested the election. What's weird is that he contacted the Georgian elector. I can't remember the dude from Georgia, and he tried to get, find that 10,000 votes. Find them. Like, what that means is cook up some fucking votes. Get this shit overturned. But I'm not so sure if it amounts, like, layman's, obviously. You look at it, you're like, well, it does seem like he tried to overturn a fair election and tried to mess up I think if January 6th didn't happen, then this would just be casual complaining from a sore loser. But since January 6th happened and people were, even if they were feckless idiots walking around the Capitol, their intent was to get the vote overturned. So it's not the effect that happened. Like, just because you are incompetent doesn't mean that your intentions aren't horrible. Like, overturning our democracy, 200-year-old democracy, that's bad. If they would have succeeded, we wouldn't have votes anymore, very well. Because if they succeed, they can just do it again. They can just force their way in again. So, yeah, he's being charged with 4 different cases. The case where he overvalued his holdings. I mean, the bank. I don't even think the banks were suing him. So I'm not so sure. I'm not sure how a private deal could. I mean, maybe they're from a tax perspective, but everybody overvalues your stuff. When you go to sell something, the value of something is what somebody's willing to pay for it. So I don't understand how he can be charged with overvaluing his assets, because value is subjective with something like that. So I'm not quite sure how that constitutes as fraud. Maybe because if he knowingly overvalued to commit tax evasion, which sounds like what they're trying to get him for, or what they did get him for. I think they successfully did convict him of that. But